What's up, everybody? I hope this is a keeper because it's like the 18th time I've filmed this intro. So hope everybody's doing well. I hope you guys are setting and attacking your goals, coming close to your dreams. And today we're going to talk about the Wild Rides SN95 mini tub kit. Now I know there's a lot of videos about mini tubbing everything on YouTube, but I haven't seen any with the Wild Rides kit, and I just want to go through. It's a pretty self-explanatory install. I want to go through some tips that I found while doing the driver's side here, and we'll see where it goes. Alright guys, we're in the back of the car. Wild Rides gives you these cardboard templates to help you get your cut lines marked. Now what I found on the driver's side was I probably cut like half an inch inside these lines, and I end up having to go back and cut more. These lines are pretty close, so you can be pretty confident that as long as you cut a little bit to the inside, I mean, you know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe less, maybe right inside the line. But they give you one. You get one for the front, one for the rear side. Obviously, this is the front side of the fender, and this is the rear side. You set it in place. Run your marker around it. Make sure it's nice and tight. One thing you need to do is clean up some of this seam sealer. It kind of gets in the way and it can push you back or keep you away from where you really need to be. So you do that, mark it out. You can see you got a line here, and then you gotta go to the front side. All right, so we have our front template for the rear fender well, and the first step is to remove the seat support, the rear seat support. Now you can see I've already hacked some of this stuff up because I filmed everything, and then when I went to download it, some of the filming wasn't there and some was. So I'm redoing it and setting things in place. So this section needs to come out. Now where I cut it is basically right where you see that step in the metal. That's where I cut it at, and then just drill those spot welds down here. Pops right out. You know, you have to trim around here too. Cut that off, throw that out. Then you have the room to actually lay down your template. Make sure it's nice and tight against the fender, and you're going to need to form it to fit the curvature of the floor. Trace out your mark, trace out your line, that on there, and then I just used the template to connect the two like that, and we marked the missing spot, and that's done. Then as far as cutting, you're gonna need to, I almost forgot. One thing is in the instructions, it tells you from this point here where the rocker box meets the floor, you need to measure out, make sure that's 7 inches. In the back, you measure against the flange of the fender right here where it meets the inner fender well meets the outer fender well. Measure from there to your mark here. It should be 9 inches. But what I found is that on the SN95, it's actually 10 inches. It worked fine on the driver's side. Everything's lines up. I don't know why it says 9. I'm guessing that's just because the Fox body is that way, but the instructions say Fox body and SN95. So they're not detailed instructions. I guess I figure if you're willing to tackle this job on your own, then you should have some cognitive ability to figure some of this stuff out. So, all right, so at this point, I have everything cut out, and then you just knock it out, and you can see that, you know, I left about an inch and a half of material left on this inner fender well. The new mini tub well will actually come up to the inside of this, so you need to keep this material here in order to make it easier to line up and attach the new fender well. A couple other things, you know, you got all these brackets. You got your coil mount, you got, you know, the shock mount tabs, all this stuff to clean up. It's possible that you could reuse some of that as supports for the mini tub. I didn't. I just took it all off, cleaned everything up all the way back to the subframe. So one of the other things that was not mentioned in the instructions is that you end up exposing the lower torque box. Now, as I was fitting this thing up, I couldn't get it to fit very well. So I plan on installing new torque boxes. So I started to demo those out on the driver's side. I figured there's not going to be another time where I have as much room as I do with the fender well out, so I might as well get those out of there. So I worked on that, got that done on the driver's side, so it's something I'm going to do on the passenger side. But the other thing I learned on the driver's side is that this line didn't necessarily correlate real well. I'll show you in a minute here, but I ended up cutting back to here all the way across because I couldn't get the way this rocker box tapers out and everything. I just couldn't get it to work right and fit well. It, you know, was wanting to squeeze in and do all this weird stuff, so I just ended up trimming things up a little differently. You can see that I have a large opening around the mini tub fender well, and that's because one, I ended up trimming back to here. Well, that puts me in that big hole that's like that on the floor pan. So I was like, well, I don't want to deal with that, so I just ended up cutting it back even farther to give me more room. This is flat. It's easy enough to put a piece of patch in here that it doesn't matter. Now I did cut a little too much on this rocker box. Not much, about 3/8 of an inch over, so I can patch all that in. Not too concerned about it. You know, this is a go car, not a show car, and as long as it doesn't fall off, that's all that matters really. So you can see the same thing over here. I just ended up, because this is only like 24 gauge sheet metal, and you can't, because it's contoured and it's got some impressions in it and stuff. You can't get it was hard to get a good clean cut that fit nicely up against this. And in some spots I went too far and I didn't want to have it super bulging, so I just decided to cut this out along the subframe, and I'll just come back in here with a piece of 3-inch wide material, come through here and patch it in, and it should I'll probably use a 16 gauge or something a little bit more stouter than this 24 gauge stuff. Let's see what else. The other thing, another tip is when you get near this rocker box is to come in with your cut, because if you trim this back, if you cut it same way, the same thickness as up here, you're gonna end up short, like I did on the driver's side. So make it, come inward and make this nice and wide, so that way when you trim everything back, you can fold it in and actually weld it back up easier. Because I'm gonna have to do some trim work or some patch work on this side. Let's see, I used auto body saw, Sawzall, and cutting wheels. It's not too bad. The biggest problem is the bracketry for all the components. But other than that, it's not too bad. You can see that at this point, I did not cut into the subframe yet. I just wanted to make, get the big major component of it out of the way. And now that I do, I can come in and make more, hopefully, precision cuts on the subframe. Let's see, I think that's about it for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get after demoing the lower torque box, start trimming things up, finishing things up a little bit, getting these brackets off of there. All that, the big thing is just take your time with this. It's like all of it. I've learned that I don't particularly need to, there's only a couple spots that really, if you really want to do like a serious show car style install, it's going to take you some time. So be prepared for that. Thankfully for me, I'm not too worried about it. Let's see. Pull this over here. So you can see you got your shock mount, bracketry, coil mount, or your coil bracketry. This is an old seat belt mounting point, and other than that, do a decent job. It comes out pretty easily with just the one giant piece. The first one you cut out, it'll probably come out in multiple pieces like mine, but once you figure it out, it's not too bad. I found that these lower torque boxes aren't really that bad to take out. It's kind of a lot of cutting, a lot of piece work. You got to piecemeal them out pretty much. Let's see. You'll probably find some rust in the stuff, and I did. But I was really surprised that these lower torque boxes are in the way, because there's nothing that mentions that anywhere that I saw. Maybe, I don't know, I guess they just kind of figure if you're doing mini tubs, you're going to be taking a lot of stuff out anyways. So now when it comes to this, I'm going to be going a lot further than what most people would. I mean, you can see, you know, there's quite a bit of rust and some rot that was back in here. I'll end up taking all this sheet metal off up to here, just like I did on this side, and replaced it with that Menards 16 gauge. I just like the way it turned out. It's gonna make the rear bar mounting much easier. And I still gotta fix the rot in the subframe, and probably just gonna end up doing the same to the passenger side, because I also I don't know what sheet metal thickness this stuff was, but you know, your parachute bar mounts, or at least the majority of the parachute bars that are out there, those kits mount to the factory bumper support mounting, which is this stuff here. So I got to replace this one anyways, and this one's not too far off as far as rust and whatnot. That's the last thing I want, is if I have to deploy the chutes for this rear bumper to be, you know, stopping with a chute in the car or not. So what I'm going to do is probably replace both straight sections of the subframe. Let's get some 2 by 3.5 box tubing, probably 80 thou wall thickness. Then just plate where it seams in. Then I'll replace these with like 1/8 inch plates. I don't want to have an issue where the parachute stops and the car doesn't, so I don't want to drag my bumper with it. So we'll get that all situated, but moving along, making progress. So that's that for right now. I will get to work on this, getting it ready, and once I start fitting it up, the mini tub up, I will probably put out a new video of some tips and tricks I found. So, you know the drill, guys. Get in the garage, turn your dream into a goal, and crush it. If you enjoy watching these videos, or enjoy watching me learn, and you not having to make the same mistakes that I do, please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.